The big news that happened this week was xAI and Elon Musk announcing that they just raised a Series B, $6 billion. Company post money is now worth $24 billion. They also talked about a 100,000 equivalent chip compute power that they're going to build a gigafactory of compute in xAI. And the question for everyone here is the xAI development a good thing for Tesla? Or as some people are complaining, they think that's a conflict of interest. They should be building that same compute power in Tesla instead of xAI. But there's going to be a number of ways that xAI and Tesla could work together. And the question is this something that, should have been built in Tesla instead? Start with you, Jeff. What's your thoughts?
I certainly, it's appropriate to ask the question, and I don't think there's any obvious set of answers that's like, oh, of course it should be, this way or that way. I think there's a healthy debate on both sides of this. So this is xAI. So this is Grok. This is kind of more closely tied to the former Twitter, but there's definitely applications that would apply to Optimus and the vehicle. I mean, I firmly believe one of the factors on the robotaxi that will distinguish Tesla from others. Not saying others can't or won't have a language model running in the vehicle, but I think it will be more properly integrated, more smooth, more fluid, fun, and just and I think more truthful, potentially, with Tesla's approach to this. So I do think there's an opportunity for them to work together. And who knows? I mean, this round looks like it was subscribed. Looks like it was a $7 billion round, and it looks like $5 billion of it subscribed. I know that's what was in the SEC report today. So does that leave, is Tesla, picking up another billion or 2 billion of it? I don't know. It's an interesting question to ask or just to put out there. But like I said, I think there's merits on both sides of the debate. But I think in the end, I think Elon has principles in terms of what he's looking for to develop AI, and he's looking not for more money, but for a larger percent control of the company. If you look at some of these other company or corporate structures, where this like OpenAI, that structure is, all over the place and highly questionable. And then you've got the voting class shares and control that Mark Zuckerberg has over at Meta. Basically, he's got full control. And then you'd have Tesla and the situation it's at today with where Elon and has 13% control. So I think there's a conversation to be had on both sides. I'm not it's obviously this, and what Elon wants is right, or it's obvious that it's he should have been doing this. He's not. I don't think it's just like kind of a one-sided conversation. I think there's merits on both sides of the argument.
Okay, and Xander, what was your thinking when you heard this?
I mean, obviously, when the investment decisions are made, in my opinion, you're getting what's currently developed. So, Elon choosing to form other companies is something that I'm aware of when I made my investment decision. So, I mean, obviously, you'd want to have everything under the umbrella of the Tesla brand, but the reality is, there's if decisions like the judge made with a publicly traded company continue to occur, this is precisely what's going to happen. going public is not going to be appealing to someone like Elon to raise capital. He's just going to go in a different direction, and so perhaps other lawsuits or other things cause that to happen, and it sucks. I think it would be nice if everything that Elon worked on and you could in that's related to AI. But back when the decisions were made, we talked about FSD, and getting robots was good.
Okay. Yeah. So Tesla has announced that they're no longer compute constrained. And then, Omar, you had a post saying that Elon Musk wants to control more training compute than anyone else, 100,000 NVIDIA boxes for xAI, another 100,000 plus at Tesla. Then there's Dojo. So this complaint that some people have that they should have been building at Tesla, well, it's kind of mute a little bit if Tesla is not compute constrained and they have a supercomputer themselves. Even Elon pointed out the area in Giga Texas that will have that. What's your thoughts on all this?
I mean, I think people will just complain about anything. There's an incredible amount of negativity these days. And, even a good thing like, okay, the xAI had a successful fundraising round. It has to be, oh, why is this bad for Tesla? So, I mean, it's not like they're not building up training compute at Tesla. Tesla actually has more training compute than xAI does. But obviously, they spent $1 billion on training compute in the first quarter alone. I don't think anybody can really look at what's going on there and say they're not investing enough in training compute, or they're, you know, giving more training compute to xAI. I don't think that's the case at all. When you look at Tesla's A100 cluster, their H100s, their H200s, their B100s, and Dojo, which is now in mass production, Tesla has even more training compute than xAI. But that training compute is really dedicated to solving self-driving and robotics. Does it make sense for Tesla to be training an LLM? So why would Tesla be able to make an LLM that's better than OpenAI and Microsoft and Google and Facebook? What data source do they have exactly that would allow them to make a better model? Nothing. So what would they do? You know how much it costs to train one of these language models? Millions of dollars per training run. And do you do one training run? No, you do a lot of training runs. So it costs billions of dollars to train one of these models, to get the training compute, to hire the researchers, to do all the work needed to train one of these models. And then what's the payoff? Maybe you get people to subscribe for $20 a month. Maybe. So, it's kind of an interesting situation where it is kind of speculative and likely to fail. But if it works, it's also potentially very important, I think, and is going to be hugely beneficial to Tesla. If you look at the Grok 1.5 vision paper and you look at some of the examples they've shown where Grok is answering questions about the driving clips, it's clear, I think, that this type of capability, this type of background knowledge of the world that you get from crawling the internet, crawling data sources like X, is probably eventually going to be foundational to the self-driving and robotics piece as well. And we've seen Green notice that they're working on a Tesla voice assistant. I'm guessing that's probably going to use Grok. I could see some of these capabilities actually making their way into FSD into the future. And xAI is actually publishing the model weights openly, so anybody can just download the model and run it, including Tesla. And I'm sure the teams will work together to make sure it can run on Tesla's AI inference hardware and really sort of maximize that synergy um, so that it can be applied to Tesla's products as well, both in terms of the voice assistant, but also giving it the ability to reason about complex edge cases like a human can. Like you can see it says, okay, is there enough space to go around this car? And it can understand the meaning of things at a much deeper level than the self-driving systems can today. So I think there's a lot of potential overlap in the future. I could see Tesla taking an equity stake or acquiring them at some point in the distant future when the business is maybe more fleshed out and they've had some success. But I'm not sure it's really appropriate right now. The important thing for Tesla right now is one, to be profitable, and two, to make the investments they need to make in AI to dominate in self-driving and robotics. So I'm not really sure it would make sense for Tesla to buy 100,000 H100s and dedicate them to training an LLM. If they did that, I might say, has Elon lost his mind? This might be kind of crazy. It feels like we're kind of taking our eyes off the ball with self-driving here.
Yeah, the other question to maybe ask is if you were one of the investors to take Twitter private, in X, should xAI be part of X? And if you invested in X in that private round, should you have a chunk of xAI? To me, that's the more like that's the more adjacent question, and then Tesla would be, I think one step removed from it. But yeah,
I'm
I
gonna
think yeah.
I'm going to push back a bit, you guys, because you guys saw today Bill Lee, famous venture capitalist, investor, invested in Tesla, SpaceX, a lot of other Tesla companies, including X and xAI. He tweeted out this thing that says two emojis, right? Robot brain. And then Elon Musk liked it. So why is the Tesla bot's brain being done by xAI? You can argue that all the other robots, they have a partnership with OpenAI. Some of them do. And OpenAI is the one that's powering their ability to speak and to understand the communication from a human back to the bot. And then they understand what they're looking at. But why is that something that, is going to be powered by xAI instead of Tesla? But on the other hand, I wanted to ask you guys this question, which is the thing I've been really focusing on, which is, the concern that Elon has is owning 25% voting control because he's worried that robots at some point are going to become sentient and they might be used for military purposes. If he controls the brain in xAI, which he controls that company, he then solves this problem because he can then make sure that Tesla's bots aren't used for nefarious situations. What do you guys think about that scenario?
Well, this is the language model for Tesla, right? So this is the language model Tesla's going to use. When they launch the Tesla voice assistant where you can say, hey, Tesla, and talk to it, I guarantee you it's going to be powered by Grok. And this fundraising round is going to allow them to hopefully develop a really great Grok that powers our car's speech features and is really great. And I imagine the robot will also have to talk to us. I imagine they'll use Grok for that as well. So this is going to be the language model they use. There are other language models you can use. Like, for example, they could use Llama 3, which is open source. But here's a model where they can control it, they can guide the development. And guess what? They don't have to pay for it. It's paid for by external investors. So, I think X does own a stake in xAI in exchange for the training data and real time access they've provided. But language is just one part of the robot brain, right? So you need language, you need also just the ability to move the motors on the robot and complete tasks. That's really the thing Tesla's been working on primarily. And the language model has been a big missing piece for them. So they've really been trying to get self-driving perfected, dedicating most training resources to FSD 12. I think that's the most important part. To train a state of the art language model is extremely expensive and time consuming. And this allows them to have a model where they can guide the development. You literally have the same CEO of both companies, and they can make sure it suits their purposes in terms of running on the inference hardware and guiding the development to do the things they need with the robot. But again, it's only part of that robot brain. It fills in a missing piece where Tesla doesn't have that internet data, right? X has a lot of the data themselves, and of course, you'd probably use other data from the internet as well. They can train a model based on that, and Tesla and others can use it in their products as well. So I see it as potentially saving, you know, millions to billions of dollars for Tesla. Now, the question is really, okay, well, would it be better for Tesla to develop it themselves? Is it going to have some value in the future? And it seems like these language models are increasingly becoming commoditized. They're all kind of the same. And I'm not really sure that it would make sense, especially given when you see just the scale of training compute needed and the amount of training compute they need for their other endeavors. I think if they could do it within Tesla, they probably would. But between trying to be profitable in a situation where margins are under pressure, investing billions of dollars a year in self-driving, I think having a LLM too and trying to do a state-of-the-art LLM might not have been the best focus for the company. So if it doesn't make sense to do within Tesla, then, why not just form a different company, do it, give the employees equity that they couldn't have gotten otherwise as part of a larger company. And now you've got this language model that is under your control, and you don't have to use OpenAI or Google like Apple had to do.
Yeah, no, I like that quite a bit. That's what Warren, we're just talking about xAI. We've covered everything from, some of the bulls thinking that it's something that should have been done within Tesla, that what parts of xAI is going to provide the brains for the robot. What are the ways that xAI and Tesla is going to benefit? I actually think that it's a positive because now you can raise more money. Just like he's showing here, with xAI, he can raise more money to build more compute, and he could have probably done that more outside of Tesla as well. What's your position on all this, Warren?
I think that Elon was wrong to start SpaceX as a separate company from Tesla. And if Elon had, like Boring Company should be in Tesla, Neuralink should be in Tesla. How dare he actually? I mean, I don't know. When I invested in the company in 2016, SpaceX already existed, and I knew he had another company. And then he formed Boring Company Neuralink in 2016, and I kept investing, knowing the guy had other companies. I I I guess I'm a total idiot, and I should have insisted from the beginning, I'm not gonna buy into Tesla stock unless he brings all these companies in-house. He doesn't like first of all, I think one of the key details that people are missing is that some engineers like joining a startup because they can get more equity, they can, there's more of, you don't have the bureaucracy. As much as Tesla tries to eliminate bureaucracy, you can have more bureaucracy in a 100,000 person company than you are in a 10-person or 50-person company. I think there's lots of good reasons for Elon to do this outside of Tesla. He doesn't like running businesses inside publicly traded companies. When you have a business that is, can you imagine what Gary Black would be saying if xAI was inside Tesla? Elon's got to stop wasting all these resources on these large language models and focus on getting out the $25,000 car. It just there's an endless source of complaints, but you can't. He doesn't. This is why he likes running businesses that aren't publicly traded, because you don't get this level of scrutiny. And it's most of it's just nonsense.
Yeah, but at the same time, aren't you expecting that they should make an announcement saying that Tesla owns a piece of xAI, just like he did saying that X and Twitter is going to own a piece of xAI? Aren't we expecting
But
that at least?
should Tesla own a piece of SpaceX and Neuralink and Boring Company? Like, why are people making up rules? I don't get what somebody tell me why we're making up rules. He does if all of a sudden if Tesla invested in xAI, then people would complain that Elon put that, shareholder money into conflict of interest, blah, blah, blah. It's ridiculous. It's a publicly traded company, and he's supposed to invest shareholder resources in one of his private companies, and then no one's going to say that he doesn't have they're not going to say there's a conflict of interest. It's just dumb. Like, look, this is what you bought into. You bought into a company with a CEO who has lots of other interests, and he starts up other companies. And if you didn't know that if you didn't know that, if you've invested, if you've bought any shares since 2017, he already had 3 other companies. What are you doing? buy a boring stock with a boring CEO and get out of Tesla. This isn't a company for you. This isn't obviously you don't want a CEO who like Elon. So fuck off and go to another company.
Go ahead, Omar.
Yeah, I think obviously Elon has a fiduciary duty to Tesla shareholders. He has to do, as the CEO, what's in the best interest of the shareholders and not what's in the best interest of himself. And I believe he's acting in his fiduciary duty here. I believe he's doing what's appropriate for the company. I don't think that it would be appropriate to try and build a state-of-the-art LLM within Tesla. I'm not sure that Tesla has anything that can differentiate them. I'm not sure dedicating 100,000 GPUs or $6 billion towards it would be a good use of the company's money, especially given the uncertain return. So nobody has more Tesla shares than Elon, right? So if he thought that it could really help Tesla to do it within Tesla, I think that he would. I think that they're building out as much training compute as they possibly can. They're not pulling any punches there. But it just really doesn't make sense. And well, if it doesn't make sense within Tesla, then let's do it anyway. I think it's probably good for Tesla overall that this money is being raised and the LLM is being built anyway, rather than them having to take $6 billion out of their cash and invest it towards this cause with an uncertain return. So, really, shareholders should be happy that this risk is not on our shoulders. I think the most important thing is for the company to be profitable. If the company has to raise or is posting losses, they're the only profitable pure EV maker in the world. So people are going to say, well, this shows that EVs can't be profitable and this company's just a disaster. And it probably won't go very well for Tesla shareholders. It would probably institute a lot of volatility. Look at what happened when, Meta, for example, reported an increase in spending on AI infrastructure without an ability to really back that up with revenue. So, in some point in the future, let's say this becomes a mature business, it's actually profitable, and we want it to be part of Tesla. Well, guess what? Elon knows the CEO of xAI and can put in a good word for us because it's him. And they can merge the companies if needed. But right now, I'm not sure it's really worth it for Tesla shareholders to have that risk, especially when there's open source models like Llama 3 and Mistral that anybody can use. So I think xAI is going to take the funding, they're going to train a model, they're going to make it available for others to use, they're going to publish the weights. I think it's going to become the language model for Tesla too. And I think Tesla gets a lot of the benefits without a lot of the risk, honestly.
Go ahead, Emmett.
Yeah, I very much agree with Omar, but I'm going to focus on a little different point, and that is the greatest source of truth from a social media standpoint is X, especially Community Notes across the globe, and it's only getting better. Community Notes is rolling out globally, and because of their focus on making sure it's as unbiased and as close to the truth from the standpoint of the entire crowd of the globe, it's a phenomenal source of knowledge, and it should be privately held or held by a company that is very committed to that, as opposed to political agendas that might come and go over the next couple of decades, or other agendas that can come and go because of popularity. Whereas xAI has more of a scientific, let's study nature, let's study humanity kind of component to it. I don't think there's any place more. The setup that Elon's done there, I think, is the best setup you could, considering all the variables. And as Omar was just mentioning, all the other Tesla companies still get to benefit from it, whether they invest or just become a customer. And Tesla, from an language model standpoint, they should be focused on one thing, and that's making FSD rock and robotaxis rock. That's going to have a huge impact on humanity.
Okay, Warren.
Yeah, I think people are missing the benefits, which Emmett just at least hinted at. We're here on X, and we have access to Grok. when Elon has multiple companies that are, you know, you often see technology cross over from one company to another. An engineer at Tesla might go work on a project at X. An engineer at SpaceX might come over and work on a project at Tesla. You end up some sharing of resources, some sharing of SpaceX uses Model 3, Tesla batteries. SpaceX material science team came up with the alloy for gigacastings and the steel for Cybertruck. There's a lot of crossover. And so it seems likely that we're going to get Grok in the cars. It seems likely that Grok or some form of model that they develop at xAI will end up in Optimus. I mean, honestly, you could look at Optimus and say, why did he develop Optimus inside Tesla? He probably, looking at this now, he probably should have started a new startup to build humanoid robots and not done it inside Tesla. It's not really, and I'll say this, xAI is not a part, the mission is to accelerate the transition to sustainable energy. The mission of Tesla, accelerate the transition to sustainable energy. I don't think xAI is part of that mission. I don't think that Optimus is necessarily part of that mission. You can make the case for both of them, but they're not as clearly part of the mission as a lot of everything else that Tesla does. So I almost wonder if he thinks he made a mistake by building Optimus inside Tesla. Maybe
Yeah.
that would have been better as a startup.
So if embodied AI is the path to get into AGI, the good news is that xAI does the LLM approach, and then the robot will do that. So they both are in the mission of sustainable humanity, right? Is because you want to
Yeah,
get to
but
humanity,
just
and
to be clear,
that's the way
it's
to do
not
it.
just a large language model.
That's my point.
xAI is a multimodal. They're pursuing a multimodal approach, which maybe Omar can explain that better than I can.
Go ahead, Omar.
So I think Optimus made a lot of sense to have in Tesla. You have obviously Tesla's global manufacturing footprint. That I think is a big differentiator for Optimus. You've got their AI training compute, their AI inference compute. You have a lot of the work on motors and actuators and batteries. There's a whole lot of overlap between the cars and the robots. So I think that made a lot of sense to do within Tesla. A large language model, really, when we're talking about one of these state of the art large language models, that's something that Tesla needs to use, but is very expensive to build yourself. And as Warren said, it's not necessarily directly aligning with the mission. So, like they could have used Llama 3 or something, but having a team, an amazing team under Musk's leadership that they control and they can sort of guide the development with just that's suitable for their products. I think this is a good thing. And like a lot of people, there's just so much Elon hatred. Oh, everything's Elon's fault, and he's this terrible guy. He's the super villain that a lot of people just sort of take everything where, there's pluses and minuses to it. Maybe you could be a little bit concerned about conflict of interest. Maybe you could be concerned about, okay, if we don't vote for his compensation package, why does he care about Tesla and not these other startups? I think those are legitimate concerns. But generally, you're not going to go see RJ Scaringe or Peter Rollison raise a $6 billion fund to create a state of the art AI model and actually hire the AI engineers who can actually make that happen realistically. They're just not going to do it. I mean, do people realize that $6 billion is the biggest fundraising round ever? Like, do we realize what an asset this guy is that we have as CEO that he can just say, hey, yeah, I want to create one of these state of the art models that competes with Google and Microsoft, and I need $6 billion to do it. And it sounds like they've gotten at least $5 billion there. That's really an asset to Tesla that other EV startups and other auto companies just don't have. I mean, this guy brings with him, not just his incredible, obviously, vision and his talents and his knowledge, but his business empire that's behind him, right? The Boring Company is using Tesla vehicles in their tunnels. SpaceX is using Tesla batteries. When they take the astronauts over to Dragon, they're into Tesla Model X's, right? They have a materials science guy, the alloy, special alloy for the casting that came from SpaceX. The alloy of the stainless steel on the Cybertruck that came from SpaceX as well. They have a materials engineering guy who is a shared employee between both companies. So, I mean, there's always been a lot of sort of synergies between his companies. When they can work together, they work together. And, knowledge of things one company's working on often benefits to other companies, right? He said that one day with Neuralink, you're going to be able to summon the car with your mind. So, I mean, the companies have always kind of worked together in different ways. I think that if it made sense to do it within Tesla, like with Optimus, they would have done it. But I think given what's going on with language models, it's just an incredibly crowded market, and you have to just invest a lot, and the payback is very uncertain. So, as a Tesla shareholder, I'm kind of excited about this being done off balance sheet in a way that Tesla can still leverage, assuming shareholders aren't stupid enough to fire Musk and recognize that there are very few people on Earth who can pull together something like this.
Okay. So I mentioned something a little bit earlier, and all of you guys just glossed over it. So I'm going to bring it back up again. Bill Lee posted today, robot brain. Elon Musk liked it. If Tesla's xAI, if xAI builds the robot brain, okay, more than just the large language model that we've seen OpenAI can do today with figure robotics, this could be one way that he gets around the 25% control, because he still controls the robot brain. But B, it's the other way around to think of it, is this is significant. This is the robot brain. To what extent would we want that outside of Tesla?
I
I
think
think
it's
you're letting your imagination run wild with these two emojis. As I said, this is just the language part, right? So the brain has a lot of parts. It has a vision system, a perception system. You have actuation of the motors taking different actions. Language is just one piece, and it's a very complex and expensive piece that there's a lot of different language models out there. You could use one from OpenAI, you could use one from Google, you could use an open source model, or you could build your own. So it's it is part of the robot brain, the language model, but there's a lot more to the brain than just language.
Herbert. I want to go directly to your question, and I think you're 100% right. And let's remember, there's a point that's already in Elon's mind, and probably many other people that is part of his various leadership teams across the different companies, that all of these different pieces are going to be complementing one another in the future. So I always use the phrase Jarvis comes from Iron Man, but that brain, the brain you're talking about, is going to be available across all of the various Elon Musk companies, and it'll be available to outsource to other companies. And that's exciting, but it's going to be incredibly valuable as well.
Yeah, if I can just add on this, as far as brains go, you probably, if you want to build a brain that approaches human intelligence, or maybe surpasses human intelligence, you probably want to understand how the brain works. And if only we had connections to a company that is going to learn more about the way the brain works than any other company has ever come close to. Oh, wait, that's Neuralink. And if you follow Neuralink YouTuber or content creator Ryan Tanaka, who was a Tesla intern, I think twice, Ryan believes that Neuralink will ultimately develop a robot brain, because they're going to have the best model of the human brain that anyone's ever had. So I think there's that. And then the other point I just want to make is, if you look at the recent interaction between Elon and Jan LeCun, and you ask yourself, and you look at Grok. Grok has fun mode. A fun mode? Does any other AI have a fun mode? Um, what 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 would fit in a Tesla car? What other AI would if you had an AI in the car and you said oven butthole, what would Gemini do? What would Llama do? What would OpenAI do? Only an Elon inspired, an Elon run, large language model, whatever, would actually get the joke and do what you're supposed to do. So if you're gonna have Grok in your car is gonna have a sense of humor. If you're gonna have OpenAI in your cars, you're gonna try to get the car to go to a nightlife district, and the car is going to say, "No, you don't want to drink alcohol tonight." You know, I mean, that just like really like the advantages here are huge. But and also, if you are an AI, I noticed that some of the and it was an X one of the guys I follow who works at X reacted to Jan LeCun trashing Elon as a boss. I think it was Dan Kettlebell Dan, who was pretty critical of Jan LeCun. Do you want to work at a company where the boss has no sense of humor, or do you want to work at a company where the boss has a sense of humor? You know, if you work for Elon, at least he's got a sense of humor. Does Sam Altman have a sense of humor? Does Zuckerberg have a sense of humor? Does Jan LeCun have a sense of humor? Do the guys at Google have a sense of humor? Um, Jan LeCun is pissed off because xAI is much better able to attract AI engineers than Tesla is. Think about that. Why did he react to that post from Elon? He reacted because it's working. xAI is drawing engineers that Meta was trying to recruit. That's the only reason he reacted to that. Does anybody have an opinion on that?
Let's get to you, Emmett.
Yes, hi. Good to be on here and chat with you guys. I listen to you guys from time to time and appreciate you guys spreading the word of just, getting rid of disinformation about Tesla and Elon and getting the truth out there about this stuff. But I think Elon is a doer. We all know that, right? He sees the biggest problems and he does something about it. He takes action. I don't know any other billionaire that actually is a doer like this. They just stick with their own company, their own, they don't go off on all these tangents to try to solve the world's problems. And Elon is incredible in that way. And something George Hott said once about Elon in one of his Lex Friedman interviews is that Elon is the most efficient marshal of resources, is the best marshal of resources he's ever seen. And $6 billion, not only is the biggest capital raise, but imagine how efficient Elon is going to be with that $6 billion to build this AI. It would be more efficient than the government creating some $600 billion fund to create some massive AI project. Elon's $6 billion is going to go a long way. And this, like Mr. Thompson was saying, I think all these parts play together and all of Elon's companies are going to benefit off of building this robot brain capability that xAI is working on. That's going to be an incredible data center. And I believe that the $6 billion is going to be, used to build at Elon speed such huge data centers to move forward as fast as possible on this mission. So that's just all I wanted to say. I'm excited more than anything.
Go ahead, Omar.
Yeah, Steve Jobs would always say Apple needs to own and control the core technologies behind our products. Not only because they had gotten screwed so many times working with partners, but they found that you could really make great products when you had that vertical integration and you can make all the pieces of the tech stack align together. And Tesla has very much abided by this ethos. It's been part of their philosophy as well. Vertical integration, owning the core pieces of the tech stack. And the language model has emerged in recent years as a very key piece of the tech stack, if not one of the most foundational pieces of the tech stack. And I think it's going to be key in the robot, obviously. It's also going to be important in the car. I think the robotaxi needs to talk to you. It needs to understand you. It needs to say, I'm going to the mall, but drop me off in the back where there's less traffic. And understand what all those words mean and how it should translate into driving. So the language model is really important, and it's really important to own and control that. You don't want to be using OpenAIs or Googles and be depending on that. So, would we like Tesla to own and control it themselves? I think we would. But the reality is, unfortunately, Tesla has limits. It has limits on its profitability. It has limits on, spending $6 billion to try and create this language model. And then what if it sucks, right? What if it's not as good as GPT-4? Then the robot just sounds stupid compared to other products out there. So it's really imperative to not only own the technology, hopefully, but to own a state of the art technology. And so that's a really tall order. So can we do that? Can we give the equity grants we need? Can we build up the training compute dedicated to this and still be profitable? And I think if the answer was yes, then he would have done it within Tesla. But I think that the answer was no. And it actually made much more sense to use xAI's real-time data as a differentiator and build it through xAI instead, and then use those models within Tesla. So it's not within Tesla, but it's under Elon Musk's control. That's kind of the second best thing because they're going to be friendly, they're going to be a good partner, just like OpenAI and Microsoft have a partnership. I think you can kind of build your language models for Optimus and the Tesla vehicles, which are just a part of the product offering on xAI, and feel pretty good about, the CEO of xAI not screwing you over. So, it really all comes down to whether you trust Elon or not, or you view him as a friend or an enemy. If you view him as an enemy of Tesla, then yeah, okay, why is he doing something outside Tesla? But if you view him as a part of Tesla for the future and a friend, then yeah, it's actually great that they're raising $6 billion and training a language model that they control, because it's better than using Google or using Llama or using OpenAI. And I think actually someone like said it pretty well on X. They said Elon's so crazy that he's now started two viable competitors to DeepMind. Not one but two. OpenAI and xAI. He started OpenAI because DeepMind was getting too powerful, and then that got too powerful, and now he's had to start xAI. It's pretty crazy, actually, if you think about it. So, I mean, the company could still fail. xAI, they may not be able to create a competitive product compared to other models. Certainly, the Grok product isn't known as the best model in the world today. But hey, who knows? That could change in the coming years.
Okay. So earlier I asked this question. I think, Omar, you answered it quite well. So I don't want to keep asking it, but we have Emmett, Warren. Do you guys think that this could actually be a path for Elon to get his 25% control if he controls xAI, which he does, and he has the ability to control the brains of the robot? Is that a path for him to get out of this, make it happen?
Yes, I'm glad you asked that question. What I think is going to happen is Grok becomes, once it actually gets to the Jarvis state where it is AGI and it's the most respected AGI. Let's say instead of having just one AGI, we have 5 mainstream AGIs, three to 5 mainstream AGIs. But Grok becomes the most trusted. Grok's the one that's not going to BS you. That is going to be a reason for Tesla to say, "Oh, well, we're willing to pay X amount of billions of dollars for exclusivity to have Grok be integrated into our Optimus bots." Or so he could easily get a bunch of stock in exchange for having access to Grok inside of Optimus, and it would be in the company's best interest because there's going to be billions of Optimus across the globe in the next 20 years. So I could easily see that as being a lever.
I don't see them as connected. I think that Elon gets more control over Tesla by first exercising he has, I think, 13% shares now. I think if he exercises the options he has from the 2012 compensation package, that gets him up to around, after taxes, around 17% maybe. And then if this package goes through after taxes, it probably gets him to around 20%. And then Tesla does some share buybacks after Robotaxi's generating cash. And that probably gets them to 22, 23%, conceivably 25%, but that would be a lot of cash to buy back because once Robotaxi's live, the share price is going to go up. It's going to be harder to buy back stock, but the cash will be there if that's the goal. My gut hunch would be that 20% voting control is probably enough for him to have legit control. And 22, I don't know why 25 was this magic number. I think 20, 22, 23 is probably enough anyway, and 25 might have just been a random number he pulled out of his hat. Does anybody have a theory as to why 25% was the number? Was that a negotiating position? Was that, a wish list? And, let's face reality, Elon had a lot more stock in Tesla and he sold it to do other things. If he wanted to have 25% control of Tesla, maybe he shouldn't have sold as much stock as he did. I don't know. I mean, maybe he should have sold some SpaceX stock when he wanted to acquire Twitter. He sold Tesla stock and he bought SpaceX stock. over that period, according to Ron Barron. He's been buying SpaceX stock all along.
Yeah, what Ron Barron said, he always participates in every fundraising round. Tesla hasn't had any fundraising rounds.
No, I agree with that. I'm just saying, Elon has been spending money to keep his control of SpaceX, and he did not spend his money to keep his control of Tesla, and he let that control go. And he had to make tough decisions, and I think he made the right decisions. And um, I think it's very important that he acquired Twitter, that's now X, and made it a far, the best I'm on. You guys know I'm on X all the time. I'm watching a lot less YouTube. I'm never on Meta platforms anymore, hardly ever. I think he did a great thing.
Emmett, can you answer that question?
Which
Jeff?
Emmett?
Oh, sorry, Emmett Peppers. Yeah.
Hey, just want to say, if you recall, in 2012, 13, or 14, or something like that, he would be participating in the Tesla capital raises too. Those secondary offerings. There were several of them. He personally bought into Tesla too. So, he does buy into new capital rounds in Tesla as well, or he has in the past.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, obviously with X purchase, he tried to get out of the deal when he realized how expensive it would be. When he first made the offer, Tesla shares were much higher, so he would have had to sell a much smaller stake, if at all, to do so. And he was ordered by a court to sell. You can get into, is it Elon's fault that he has less shares, or, point the finger at the market or Elon or whatever. The point really remains, we have an incredible leader who is pretty unique in the business world, obviously has a track record of amazing success, outstanding returns. And there's really a debate about really whether he should be, we're having essentially a referendum on Elon with this compensation vote. What do shareholders think about him? Should we keep him? Should we let him go? And my perspective on this is just doesn't really matter whose fault it is. We need to make sure that he's sufficiently interested. Of all the different things that are competing for his attention, rockets, cars, Twitter, or X as it's called now, xAI, is there something in Tesla that makes him want to get up in the morning? Or is it just something where he feels like he's being pushed away by shareholders and feeling all kinds of resistance? Everything he wants to do, shareholders are getting upset. So are we keeping him interested and retaining him, or pushing him away? And I want to make sure it's the former and not the latter for the time being. There will be one day when Tesla will have a different CEO. And I think there's an opportunity to do a lot of things very differently. But I want Elon to see out his vision with AI and robotics. We have to remember just 5 years ago when they had the autonomy day, everybody said he was nuts for thinking the cars could drive themselves with vision. It's taken longer than expected, but that's what they're starting to do. I think he had incredible foresight in sort of setting up the Tesla AI team. And I think we should let him just sort of continue to lead the company through this. At that point in the future, there will be another CEO maybe who can take the business and continue to grow it. But this is still the beginning for the company from my perspective.
Okay. So thank you for that. Good conversation on the xAI. This is a big topic. Everybody is quite concerned. And I think what we talked about today is there's actually a lot of positives for Tesla that this is happening in the first place. You can see all these different ways it's going to come and help each other. I think at the end of the day, Tesla will benefit out of this. I've created a website that is the most comprehensive resource for the Tesla investor. Please check it out. Simply go to my website at herbertong.com.